Danger might be closer than you think. Before we begin, like this video, comment where and what time you're watching from, and subscribe for more chilling stories. Now turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into the unknown. I was in my second year of college when this happened. Back then, I was the definition of broke, living off instant ramen, splitting rent with 2 roommates in a dingy apartment, and constantly looking for ways to save money. One of those ways was streaming fights online instead of paying for pay-per-view. It wasn't a big deal. Everyone did it. My friends and I had a small tradition of gathering in our living room, cracking open cheap beers and watching UFC fights together. But that night I was alone. My roommates had gone out and I just wanted to relax, so I decided to find a stream by myself. I had my usual list of sketchy streaming sites, but that night, every single one of them was either down or lagging like hell. Frustrated, I started clicking deeper into Google's search results, past the usual sites and into pages I'd never seen before. Eventually, I found a link buried in some forum. The post was vague, just a short message that said something like, "Best quality UFC streams. Here." No ads. There was no reason to trust it, but I was annoyed and impatient, so I clicked. The page that loaded was different from the usual streaming sites. No clutter, no fake ads. Just a black screen with a single unmarked play button in the middle. At first, I thought I'd found the jackpot. The video loaded instantly, but instead of a packed arena or a fighter's entrance, the screen showed a dimly lit concrete room. There was a single, flickering light bulb swinging slightly, casting moving shadows against the stained walls. In the center of the frame, a person sat tied to a chair, their wrists bound behind them, a cloth stuffed in their mouth. Their breathing was ragged, almost like a wheeze. I could see their shoulders shaking. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a fight. I wasn't supposed to be seeing this. I moved my cursor to close the tab, but before I could, a chat box popped up at the bottom of the screen. Messages were already pouring in. Short, disturbing messages from users with names like Meat Market 77 and Blood Feeder. Not yet, let's see them beg first. Knife or hammer? Vote now. My brain froze. This had to be fake. Some kind of twisted performance art, right? But then, the camera zoomed in, and I saw their eyes. Wide, darting around, tears streaming down their face. That was fear, that was real. My hands felt numb as I reached for the trackpad. I had to close this. I had to get out. But as I moved my cursor toward the red X in the corner, another message popped up in the chat box. This one directed at me. "We see you there, guest 2948. Don't leave yet. The fun's just starting." My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't signed in. I hadn't created an account. How the hell did they know I was watching? I forced myself to stay calm. Maybe it was just a script, some automated bot trying to mess with people. But before I could process it, a new option appeared below the video. Yes. Watch the next round. No. End the stream I wasn't about to play. Along with whatever sick game this was. I slammed my laptop shut so hard the whole desk shook. My room was dead silent now, except for the sound of my own breathing, which was way too fast. I ran a hand down my face, trying to shake off the feeling that something had just shifted. I told myself it was all in my head. Just a weird website, a prank, something pre-recorded. But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. I pushed away from my desk and grabbed my phone. I wanted to check in with my roommates, maybe even call someone just to hear a familiar voice. But as soon as I turned on my screen, I saw a new notification. A text message from an unknown number. 3 words, staring back at me. "Why did you leave?" My stomach twisted so hard I thought I was going to be sick. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. My first instinct was to block the number, but something in me hesitated. If I blocked them, would that piss them off? Would they try something worse? I had no idea who I was dealing with. Instead, I did what any normal person would do. I ignored it, locked my phone, shoved it under my pillow, and told myself this was just some elaborate trick. Maybe the site had some kind of data leak. Maybe it wasn't even directed at me personally. I just needed to stop thinking about it. I lay in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling, waiting for my pulse to slow down. I told myself I wouldn't check my phone. I wouldn't. But 10 minutes later, I cracked. I pulled it out, half expecting another message, but the screen was blank. No notifications. A tiny part of me relaxed. Maybe it really was just a coincidence. Maybe a new message popped up. "Turn your light back on." I felt ice rush through my veins. My bedroom light was off. I had turned it off when I got into bed. There was no way, no possible way. Someone should have known that. My skin prickled with the kind of fear that doesn't let you move, doesn't let you breathe. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. But run where? Then another message. "We're still streaming." I bolted upright, my heart slamming against my ribs. My hands were ice cold, my fingers numb as I gripped my phone. "We're still streaming." What the hell did that mean? I wasn't watching anything anymore. My laptop was shut. I hadn't even touched it. A sickening thought crept into my mind. Slowly, I turned my head toward my desk. The laptop lid was slightly open. I knew I had slammed it shut. But there it was, just a sliver of a gap. The faint glow of the screen barely visible through the crack. I didn't want to look. Every nerve in my body begged me not to, but my legs moved on their own. Step by step, I approached the desk, feeling like I was being pulled toward something I didn't want to see. With a shaky breath, I reached out and flipped the lid open. The stream was still running, but it wasn't the same room anymore. The screen no longer showed the dimly lit basement, the bound figure, or the chat box. This was different. The camera was somewhere else now. The video was darker, grainier, like it was coming from a low-quality webcam. It took me a second to understand what I was looking at. Then my breath caught in my throat. It was me. The video showed me sitting at my desk right there in my room. Same hoodie, same dim lamplight, same slight slouch in my posture. But the worst part, the part that made my entire body go rigid, was that I wasn't moving. The me on the screen was completely still, staring straight ahead at the camera. I wasn't doing that. I was standing, phone in hand, watching this unfold in real time. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to breathe. My mind scrambled for explanations. A looped recording? Some kind of hack? But then, right as I thought that, the figure in the video, my figure, tilted its head. Just a small movement, but slow, deliberate. A second later, a message appeared in the chat box below the feed. "We told you not to leave." I slammed the laptop shut again, harder this time, my hands shaking. I backed away from the desk, barely able to process what was happening. My breathing was too fast, my skin cold with sweat. I needed to get out of there. Now. I grabbed my jacket, my keys. Hell, I wasn't even wearing shoes, but I didn't care. I just needed to be somewhere else. My fingers fumbled with the lock on my door, but as I twisted the knob, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Against every ounce of self-preservation I had left, I looked. A final message, just 3 words. "Don't open it." My blood turned to ice. My hand was already on the doorknob. The warning on my screen felt less like a message and more like a command, like someone was watching me in real time. I stood there completely frozen, heart pounding in my ears. Then, 3 slow knocks. Not frantic, not aggressive, just steady, calculated, right on the other side of the door. I backed away so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet. My mind raced through, every possibility. It could be my roommates, it could be the landlord, it could be... But no one was supposed to be here. No one knew what was happening. And then another thought hit me like a brick. How long had they been out there? I turned off my phone screen, my breathing shallow as I listened. No footsteps, no voices, just silence pressing against me like a weight. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? Tell them what? That I watched some illegal stream and now some faceless nightmare was outside my door. They wouldn't believe me. Hell, I wouldn't believe me. Then, as suddenly as they started, the knocks stopped, and something even worse took their place. My laptop screen lit up. Even though it was closed, it flickered to life. A single line of text appeared across the dark background. "See you next time." I didn't sleep that night. Hell, I didn't stay in my apartment. I grabbed my keys, bolted out the back door, and crashed at a friend's place across town. I never told them the full story, just said my internet had been acting weird and creeped me out. A lie. But what was I supposed to say? The next morning I went back, half expecting my door to be broken down, expecting something. But everything was normal. My laptop was dead. Like the battery had drained overnight, my phone had no new messages. Nothing on the walls, nothing missing. It was like it never happened. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And I know that somewhere, on some dark corner of the internet, someone or something was watching. And maybe, just maybe, they still are. Story 2. I was freelancing full-time back then, mostly doing back-end security work for small businesses. Nothing major, just fixing vulnerabilities, setting up firewalls, and occasionally doing penetration testing for extra cash. It was a lonely gig, but it paid the bills, and I liked the flexibility. That's why when I got an invite to a private Discord server offering high-paying security contracts, I didn't think twice. The message came from a user named 0x Phantom, someone I had never interacted with before. The invite link was temporary, set to expire in 30 minutes. That should have been my first red flag, but curiosity, and honestly, desperation, won over. The server was called The Greenhouse, which sounded more like a gardening club than a cybersecurity group. Inside, everything was sleek, minimal, professional. No meme spam, no casual chatter, just different channels labeled contracts, challenges, and live ops. A bot immediately pinged me. Welcome. Before accessing job listings, you must complete an entry test. Are you ready? Below was a single button. Accept. I hesitated for half a second before clicking. Another message popped up instantly. Target Firewall 113 Beyond caremedical.net. Your goal, gain access, no data extraction, no damage, just proof you got in. It seemed like a basic challenge. Penetration testers did this kind of thing all the time. I ran a few scripts, checked for weak points, and within 15 minutes I was in. I screenshotted the access logs as proof and sent them back to the bot. A minute later, my permissions updated. Congratulations, full access granted. That was it. I was in. I felt a rush of excitement, like I had just unlocked some secret level in a game. But a week later, that feeling turned into something else. A week passed, and I had almost forgotten about the whole thing. I didn't hear anything back from the server after completing the challenge, so I figured maybe I wasn't what they were looking for. That was fine. I moved on, picked up some small gigs, kept my head down. But then, one morning, I was scrolling through the news while drinking my coffee, and a headline made my stomach drop. Major ransomware attack shuts down Beyond Care Medical. Thousands of patient records locked. I stared at the screen, my blood turning cold. Beyond Care Medical, the same system I had hacked into for that damn test. At first, I told myself it had to be a coincidence. Maybe they had multiple networks, maybe someone else had gotten in. But then I read further. The article described how an unknown hacker had breached their firewalls, injecting a payload that locked down their entire system. The attack had disabled scheduling, patient records, even critical medical equipment. Staff had been forced to cancel treatments and reroute emergency patients to other hospitals. And the worst part? The ransom demand, $3 million in Bitcoin, was time-sensitive. If they didn't pay, all encrypted files would be permanently deleted. I felt sick. I hadn't planted anything in their system. I hadn't stolen anything. But I had been inside their network. And if someone was monitoring my actions, if they had used my access as a blueprint, then I had just helped cripple a hospital. I scrambled to open Discord, but when I tried to log into the greenhouse, the server was gone, like it had never existed. I stared at my screen, my pulse hammering in my ears. The greenhouse was gone. No trace of it in my Discord history. No record of messages from 0x Phantom, like it had been wiped from existence. But I knew what I had seen. I knew what I had done. And now, a hospital was on the verge of collapse because of it. I told myself to calm down, to be rational. Maybe I wasn't responsible. Maybe this was just paranoia. But deep down, I didn't believe that. I opened my terminal and started digging, looking through my logs, trying to retrace my steps. If someone had used my access, there had to be a footprint, some kind of clue. That's when I found it. Buried in my own logs under a string of automated commands I hadn't written was a script labeled ghostpatch.py. It wasn't mine, but it had executed exactly 1 minute after I sent my proof to the greenhouse. My hand started shaking as I opened it. The script was simple, too simple. All it did was create a hidden backdoor into the Beyond Care servers. a door I had unknowingly left wide open. I slammed my laptop shut, my stomach twisting. Someone had used me. I had been a pawn in something much bigger. I thought I was proving my skills, getting a shot at a high-paying gig. Instead, I had handed over the keys to a multi-million-dollar extortion scheme. And then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. Just one message. Don't look any further. I felt my throat tighten. My apartment, which had always felt small, suddenly seemed suffocating. Every shadow, every noise from outside felt amplified. I put my phone face down on the desk, but the screen lit up again almost immediately. Another message. Turn off your computer. Walk away. I stood there, paralyzed. How were they watching me? My laptop's webcam was covered. My phone had no unknown apps or spyware. I thought I was careful, but clearly they were smarter. My fingers hovered over the power button on my laptop. Every instinct screamed at me to do what they said, to shut it all down and pretend I had never been involved. But some part of me, the part that still wanted to believe I had control, refused to back down. I forced myself to sit back down and turned on my VPN, rerouting my connection through a daisy chain of locations. Then, I opened a fresh OS on a separate drive. If they were watching me, I wanted them to know I wasn't scared. I started typing, drafting an anonymous tip to a cybersecurity journalist I trusted. I didn't know if it would help, but it was better than doing nothing. Before I could hit send, my internet cut out. My router's lights went dark. A full system failure, and then a knock at my door. Not a light knock. Not the kind where someone's unsure if you're home. This was slow, heavy, deliberate. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared at the door, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. The knocks came again. 3 of them. Rhythmic. Like they knew I was standing just a few feet away. I wasn't going to answer. No way in hell. But before I could even think about what to do next, my phone buzzed one more time. Final warning. I grabbed my backpack, shoved my laptop inside, and slipped out the back entrance of my building without a second thought. I walked for hours, aimlessly, just trying to calm down. By the time I made it back to my place, the hallway was empty. My Wi-Fi was back on, and nothing seemed out of place. But I knew better. The next morning, when I checked the news, the hospital had paid the ransom. The hackers were gone. And when I searched for Beyond Care Medical's firewall breach, there was no mention of how they got in. No logs, no trail. Like it had never happened. The greenhouse never contacted me again. But every now and then I'll get an email with no subject, no body. Just an attachment. I never open them. And I never, ever take job offers from strangers anymore. Story 3. I've always been the type of person who prefers online interactions over real-life conversations. Maybe it's social anxiety, or maybe I just feel safer behind a screen. Either way, for the past few years, anonymous chat rooms have been my escape. Places where I could be whoever I wanted, talk to strangers without consequences, and forget about the stress of everyday life. I had my usual haunts, small forums and late-night chat rooms where regulars would gather to rant about life, share weird internet finds, or just keep each other company when sleep refused to come. It was harmless, or so I thought. But then, I started noticing something strange. There was a username that kept appearing in every chat room I visited. See you soon. At first, I didn't think much of it. People recycled usernames all the time, right? But something about this one felt off. No matter what site I was on, they were there. They never spoke, never interacted with anyone directly. Just lurked, watching. One night, curiosity got the best of me. I typed into the chat, "Hey, see you soon, do you ever talk?" For a long moment, nothing. The chat continued, moving. Other users discussing whatever random nonsense was on their minds. I figured they weren't there. But then, just as I was about to leave, a private message popped up. "I like your new haircut." I felt a jolt in my chest. My new haircut. The one I got yesterday. I hadn't posted any pictures online, hadn't mentioned it in any chats. Hell, I hadn't even told my friends. I just wanted a change, something different. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard before I finally typed back. "Do I know you?" The response came almost instantly. "Not yet." A chill ran down my spine. I sat there staring at the screen, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. This had to be a joke, right? Someone I knew messing with me? I glanced around my room like I expected to see someone peering through my window. The curtains were drawn, the door locked. I was alone, but I didn't feel alone. I forced a laugh, trying to shake the feeling off. It's nothing, I told myself. Some weirdo being creepy online. It happens. All the time. I typed back. Nice try. Who is this really? No response. The chat room kept moving like normal. People coming and going. But "see you soon" was gone. Vanished. Like they had never been there. I tried to brush it off, but the unease lingered. The next day, I caught myself glancing over my shoulder as I walked to class, checking the reflection in store windows, scanning unfamiliar faces in the crowd. It was stupid. Whoever "see you soon" was, they were just some online creep. They weren't really watching me. That night, I logged into a different chat room, one I'd never used before. New site, different username, fresh start. I was halfway through a conversation about horror movies when a familiar name popped up in the user list. "See you soon." My stomach dropped. This wasn't just someone following me from chat to chat. This was deliberate. A deliberate message. I forced myself to stay calm, ignoring them, pretending I hadn't noticed. But after a few minutes, a private message popped up. "Red hoodie looks good on you." I froze. I was wearing a red hoodie. I hadn't posted any pictures, hadn't turned on my camera, hadn't even mentioned it in passing. My mouth went dry. Then another message. "Smile for me." I slammed my laptop shut so fast that my screen flickered before going dark. My whole body felt ice cold. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't some random troll messing with me online. Someone real was watching me. Right now. I stayed completely still, listening. My apartment was silent except for the low hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of the old wooden floor. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe. My phone buzzed. I nearly jumped out of my skin. With shaky hands, I grabbed it and turned the screen over. Unknown number. You shouldn't have done that. I dropped the phone like it burned me. My pulse was hammering in my ears. I hadn't responded to the chat, hadn't acknowledged them at all, but they knew I closed my laptop. They knew. Then a sound, faint, almost imperceptible, but definitely there. A single knock on my window. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My apartment was on the third floor. Third floor. No balconies, no fire escapes, just a sheer drop to the pavement below. The knock came again. Soft, deliberate. I forced myself to turn my head, my heart hammering against my ribs. The curtains were shut, but a faint shadow passed behind them, blocking out the dim glow of the streetlight. Outside, something was out there. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "Come say hi." No way in hell. I grabbed my keys and bolted for the door, yanking it open so fast it slammed against the wall. I ran down the stairs, 2 at a time, barely registering the sound of my own footsteps. When I hit the street, I kept going, didn't stop until I was 3 blocks away, standing outside a 24-hour convenience store, chest heaving. I checked my phone again. The chat app was gone. Just gone. Like it had never been installed. The messages? Erased. The unknown number? Didn't exist anymore. I never went back to those chat rooms, never used anonymous forums again, and I never sat by that window after dark. But sometimes, when I'm walking home late at night, I swear I hear footsteps behind me, always at a distance, always just out of sight. And when I turn around, there's no one there. Story 4. I've been a journalist for a few years now, mostly covering tech and cybersecurity. But my real interest, the stuff I dig into after hours, is conspiracy forums. Not the big mainstream ones where people argue about aliens or government mind control. I mean the obscure ones. The places buried so deep in the internet that you only find them through whispers in the right circles. A few months ago, I came across one that stood out. It was called The Gray Book, a private, invite-only forum that supposedly housed leaks about government operations, high-profile cover-ups, and things that never made it into the news. It wasn't a place for wild speculation. The posts were detailed, specific, and often backed by something: documents, videos, encrypted files, the kind of stuff that makes you question how dangerous the truth really is. I didn't have access at first, but after weeks of lurking in related communities, someone finally sent me a link. The invite was set to expire in 24 hours. When I clicked in, the interface was bare bones, just a black screen with a list of threads. The top post that day caught my eye immediately. "They're deleting us one by one." Curious, I clicked. The thread was full of users claiming that accounts were disappearing overnight. Not banned, not suspended, gone. Their entire post history wiped like they had never existed. Others said they had received anonymous warnings, vague but unsettling. One user, deepen, had posted a screenshot of an email. It said simply, "We suggest you stop." I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling an uneasy weight settle in my chest. I had spent enough time in underground forums to know when paranoia was just paranoia, but this felt different. There was no hysteria, no exaggeration, just quiet, methodical fear. I kept scrolling. One user, Circuit Ghost, claimed he had spoken to someone who was taken offline. He didn't explain what that meant, but he posted a link to an external file, a transcript of a conversation he had saved before the account disappeared. I hesitated before clicking, my gut telling me I shouldn't, but I did. The transcript was short, a private message exchange. User 1, "You need to stop. They see you now." User 2, "Who sees me?" User 1, "The ones who delete." User 2, "That's bullshit." User 1, "Look behind you, that was it. No follow-ups, no explanations." And User 2's account? Gone. No trace of them anywhere. I exhaled slowly, trying to shake the growing unease creeping up my spine. I had covered real hacks before, data leaks, whistleblowers exposing corruption. But this wasn't some corporate takedown or a rogue nation-state. This felt personal. And then, as I clicked back to the main page, my screen flickered. The forum was gone. At first I thought it was a server issue. Maybe the site had gone down. Maybe the admins had pulled the plug. But when I tried refreshing, I got a 404 error, like the forum had never existed in the first place. Panic crept in. I checked my history. The URL was still there, but clicking it did nothing. No cached pages, no saved posts, nothing. I opened a private browser, used a VPN, even tried a few archived versions, but the gray book was just gone. I told myself to stay calm. Maybe this happened all the time. Maybe the forum had been flagged and taken down by its own members. But then my phone buzzed, an email. No sender, no subject, just a single line of text. "Close your laptop." My chest tightened. My first instinct was to scan for malware, check my network, make sure I wasn't compromised. But as I reached for the trackpad, my webcam light flickered. It turned on. I slammed my laptop shut so hard I heard the fan inside whine. My breathing was ragged, my hands clammy as I sat there, frozen, trying to process what had just happened. My webcam had turned on, by itself. Someone was watching me. I grabbed my phone and checked the email again. Still no sender, no reply option. Just that single sentence. "Close your laptop." I wanted to believe it was a coincidence, a scare tactic, but the timing was too perfect. Whoever had wiped the gray book had also found me. I needed to know how much they knew. I unplugged my laptop, pulled the battery, and booted up a separate machine I kept for secure browsing. I checked my email logs, my IP history, even searched for traces of the gray book elsewhere. Nothing. Then I noticed something I had missed before. My phone's camera had been turned on. Not just once, but several times throughout the past week. Snapshots taken at random intervals. I checked the timestamps. One from last night, one from 2 days ago, one from a week ago when I had first started digging into the forum. All the photos had one thing in common. They were all taken while I was sitting at my desk. My stomach twisted. Someone had been inside my phone, inside my laptop. They had been watching before I even knew they existed. And now I had poked the wrong nest. I did the only thing that felt safe. I factory reset everything. My phone, my computer, even my router. I got a new number, switched devices, and left my apartment for a few days. I never got another message, never found another trace of the forum. But to this day, when I sit at my desk, I keep my webcam covered, and I never ever look at the camera, because some nights I get this strange feeling, like someone's still watching. Story 5. I was broke. Not the, oh, I should save money kind of broke. The I have $12 to my name and rent's due next week kind of broke. College wasn't cheap, and neither was living in a city where a half-decent meal cost more than I could afford. So when I found a job listing that promised $500 for a single delivery, no experience needed, no questions asked, I didn't think twice. The ad was on a classified site, buried between sketchy gig economy jobs and the usual scams. It was vague, just a short description. Need a reliable courier for a discreet delivery. Cash payment, no tracking. A burner phone number was listed at the bottom. I texted it, expecting either a scam or a dead. And instead, I got a response within seconds. Unknown number. Are you available tonight? I hesitated. It was already past 10 p.m., and the idea of running some late-night errand for a stranger wasn't exactly appealing, but my bank account was empty, and $500 wasn't something I could turn down. So I said yes. Unknown number. Good. Address incoming. Follow instructions exactly. A few moments later, a pin dropped into my messages. The location was an old storage facility on the outskirts of town. No business name, no details. Just an empty lot with a row of garage-sized units. Something about it felt off, but the promise of quick cash pushed that thought away. I grabbed my keys and headed out. The drive out there was unsettling. The further I got from the city, the quieter it became. Streetlights grew sparse, replaced by stretches of dark road flanked by abandoned lots and chain-link fences. My GPS led me down a cracked, unmarked street that dead-ended at the storage facility. It was just as eerie as I had imagined. Rows of metal doors, some rusted, some dented, all lined up like forgotten tombstones. I parked, keeping my engine running. The instructions had been clear. Unit 32, knock twice. Wait. I stepped out, my breath visible in the cold air, and made my way past the numbered doors. The whole place was silent, except for the occasional creak of metal expanding in the night. When I found Unit 32, my gut told me to turn around, but I was already here. $500 was waiting, on the other side of this deal. So I knocked, twice, for a moment nothing. Then the door slid up just enough for someone to shove a black hard-shell case into my hands. It was heavier than I expected. I barely caught a glimpse of the person inside, just a flash of pale fingers and a dark sleeve before the door slammed shut again. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Drop it at the next location, do not open it. I stood there for a second, gripping the case, my mind racing. The way they had. Shoved it into my hands, quick, almost desperate. Set off every warning bell in my head. But I reminded myself, don't overthink it. Just do the job. Get paid. Leave. I hurried back to my car, glancing over my shoulder as I went. The storage unit was completely still, like nothing had just happened. I tossed the case onto the passenger seat and checked my phone. Another pin had been dropped. The second location was about 20 minutes away, a residential address in a part of town I didn't know. Well, I drove in silence, my eyes flicking to the case every few minutes. The urge to open it was overwhelming. It wasn't even locked, just two simple latches. I could crack it open, take a peek, and shut it before anyone knew. I told myself it was just paranoia, that it was probably something boring, paperwork, jewelry, maybe even drugs. But then at a red light I noticed something. The case was leaking. A thin, dark trail was seeping from the corner where the lid met the base. It was thick, almost black, and it was staining the fabric of my passenger seat. My stomach flipped. I turned off the road into an empty parking lot, my hands shaking as I put the car in park. I sat there, staring at the case, my heart hammering in my chest. I shouldn't open it, that's what they told me. But I already knew, I knew what I was going to see. And I opened it anyway. The latches clicked open with an unsettling ease, like the case was waiting for me. As I lifted the lid, a sharp, metallic smell hit me first. Coppery. Familiar. Inside, wrapped in thin plastic, was a severed hand. I recoiled so fast I nearly knocked the case off the seat. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment I just sat there, staring. The hand was pale, fingers stiff, the nails clean but slightly jagged at the edges. Someone had removed it carefully. No ragged edges, no mess. It was clinical, precise. My whole body went numb. This wasn't drugs. This wasn't money laundering. This was something much worse. I slammed the lid shut, my pulse hammering in my ears. The plastic had been punctured, that's why it was leaking. I wiped my hands on my jeans even though I hadn't touched it directly, my mind racing. What the hell was I supposed to do? Drop it off like nothing happened? Call the cops? Before I could decide, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You opened it. I felt my chest tighten. My fingers hovered over the screen, hesitant, shaking. Before I could type anything, another message appeared. Drive. Now. My mouth went dry. I looked around the parking lot, scanning the dark spaces between streetlights. Were they watching me? Every instinct told me to ditch the case, leave my car, run. But my phone buzzed again. We see you. Don't be stupid. That was it. I put the car in drive and got back on the road. My hands were slick with sweat, gripping the wheel too tight. My mind was screaming at me to do something, call someone, anyone, but I couldn't think straight. All I could do was follow the directions and pray I wasn't about to become another missing person. The drop-off location wasn't a house. It was a construction site, half-built office buildings looming like skeletons against the night sky. The instructions were simple. Leave the case by the dumpster, then go. I parked a block away, leaving my engine running. The place was deserted, silent except for the distant hum of traffic. I grabbed the case, moving fast, my whole body buzzing with adrenaline. I dropped it beside the rusted dumpster, barely stopping to breathe before turning back. That's when I heard it. A car door shutting. Close. Too close. I didn't look. I sprinted back to my car, jumped in, and floored it. In my rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of them. Two figures standing near the dumpster, one lifting the case, the other watching me. Their faces were lost in the shadows, but they weren't panicked. They weren't rushing. They knew I had seen what was inside. They just didn't care. I didn't stop, driving until I was halfway across the city. When I finally pulled over, my hands were still shaking. My phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. Payment sent. Don't look for us again. I checked my account. $500, just like they promised. But I didn't feel relief. I felt sick. The next morning I saw the news, a missing person case. The photo showed a man in his late 30s, last seen 2 days ago. My stomach dropped. His hand was in that case. I deleted the number, wiped my phone, and never took another gig like that again. But some nights I still wonder, who picked up that case after me? And how many times had people before me made deliveries without ever knowing what they were carrying? Or worse, how many knew and did it anyway?